Hey everybody, in this tutorial we're going to be creating custom fabrics for our clothing in Character Creator. So we're going to be trying to recreate the nice quilted leather jacket you see in front of you here, as well as this nice patterned cardigan. So let's go ahead and stop this right now and go into Character Creator, where I already have a character base loaded up. And we're going to be using this cardigan B for our first example. This comes with the essential clothing pack. This doesn't come included with the free version of Character Creator, so keep that in mind. Now we're going to talk about RGB maps first. If you're unfamiliar with RGB maps, I'll summarize them quickly here for you. We need to select our cardigan first, our cardigan item, and we need to go up here to our Appearance Editor, our Appearance tab, and then activate the Appearance Editor. And then we need to select our cardigan sub-item. Let's twirl it down here and go to Input Maps. Now in Input Maps, you can see we have an RGB map inside our RGB Mask channel right here. Now this allows us to define which areas of our clothing can host a type of different fabric. So we're gonna go and close this input map section right now, go into diagnostics and select enable. And you can see we get all these colors here: blue, cyan, black, yellow, and magenta. We even have green and red if you take a close look at the buttons right there. And those correspond, if I go to my fabric section, with each fabric section over here. Now you can define each area of your clothing by modifying these individual fabric sections. So I'm going to go ahead to my input maps, disable diagnostic mode for now, and we're going to go into fabrics, and we're going to focus on this shoulder area first, which is the blue fabric, or fabric 3. So I'm going to open that for now, and you can see now we have an option to select custom materials that are embedded with the Character Creator right here, or we can load in our own maps as well. Now first what I'm going to do is go down here and double click Diffuse HSL, and that'll reset my values back to the default values without changing the hue or saturation. You can also do that for specular contrast and lightness as well. We'll just keep that the way it is though. And what I can do is go to the materials, select the different materials, and we can choose one of these. If we wanted to use any of the presets like leather, wool, or spandex, or nylon, or something like that. But what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go and choose Input. And that's going to allow me to input my own texture maps up here. So I'm first going to go to the diffuse channel. I'm going to double click the diffuse channel, and I'm going to go into my production resources here. I have my texture maps and fabrics, and I have a green wool fabric with a diffuse, normal, and specular map right here. I'm going to load in the diffuse map first of all, and you can see that will load in, although it looks a little bit different from the channel right here. Let's go into normal and load in the normal map and the specular map as well, first of all. Now it looks a little bit different because we can actually change the density. This texture map here is 1024 by 1024. So I'm going to decrease the density slightly, and you can see now we can actually see our texture appearing right there. Now this is a seamless texture, so keep in mind when you do this you need to have seamless textures. If you're unfamiliar with that, we may have other tutorials on that in the future. What I'm going to do first is go down to my normal strength as well and boost that up so we can actually see our normal pattern right there. So we'll keep that up to full value, and we'll change our density to like something like a little bit smaller, something like 2. You can see we get some nice patterns, especially right there around the shoulder area. We get that nice wool pattern. And then we can go down here and we can modify the hue, saturation, and lightness. So let's change this to a value of something like 0.5. And that'll give us a nice royal purple. And we can also decrease the lightness slightly to something like 0.43 or something, which looks fine. A nice royal purple there. And let's move on to the elbow section here. So I'm going to go to Input Maps, and you can see the elbow section is the cyan color. So we need to go into Fabrics. I can just close this down, open up cyan, and do the same thing. We'll just load in those 3 channels again. And we need to go to our Input channel. From Material, select Input again, and we'll just use the same values. And we need to go down to Diffuse HSL, reset it there, and now we're back to that green. And let's change our density back down to, I think it was a value of 2 we had. And we need to increase our normal strength as well, up there like that. And we can also change our hue to a similar value, maybe like 0.5, 0.502. 0.5 is fine. I think that kind of blends in right there. But you can see we don't really get a very apparent seam between the 2 fabrics. So what I want to do is increase the value of our seam down here. We have a seams normal. And I'm going to take that value, increase it. You can see we get a nice seam appearing right there. We can blur that out to kind of blend it in a bit more. I think that value seems about fine right there. And let's go ahead and do the same thing Under fabrics, let's go do the same thing for the blue section here. Under seams normal, at the very bottom, you can pump that up, and you can see that appears that way right there. We can increase the blur for that one as well. I think that looks fine. You can also use the / key to take a look at it from different angles. We get the nice seam appearing right there and along the fabrics right here. We'll just keep it facing forward. That'll be fine. And let's zoom out and take a look. There we go. We got a nice nice seam rather, not theme. And let's focus now on this area right here where we're going to add in our custom pattern. So this area right here under input maps is the black base area. So let's go to fabrics, black base fabric. And this time we're going to load in a different fabric. I have this quilted plaid pattern. Load that in. We need to, of course, change from cotton to our input channel and load in the normal as well. And these values, we're going to have to change the hue a little bit, obviously, just to kind of match, unless we want a color clashing cardigan here. Let's just pump up that normal strength as well. And we need to go up here to our lightness, and let's pump up that lightness a little bit, maybe not that high. Something like that will be fine. And again, here we can change the values. We can rotate this. We can change all these values right here. I'll just keep this at value of 0, just to keep it consistent. You can mess around with those on your own time, and let's take the density down slightly as well. There we go. We get a nice sweater right there. And we can keep the trim area the way we have it right now if we want, or we can modify that as well. So we'll go down to fabrics. Let's right click here and just select collapse all, and we can do the I believe it was the yellow and magenta. So let's just use the typical cotton one here, and let's just slightly change the color. There we go. Let's change it to something like that. That'll be fine. 0.77, and let's go to magenta. And under magenta, we can change it to a more magenta color. Something like that will be good. Take that lightness down slightly. There you go. It may not be an exact fit, but you can also always copy the values back and forth. Now, if you want to save this cardigan, you can save it as a project, or you can save it as an individual cloth item. You can save it as a cloth item by going to your cloth section up here and go to your custom tab, and under coats, you can just use the plus button. And we can just save this as a purple cardigan right there. And then you can load that in to your iClone or to whatever character you want. I can right click that and select Find File. And we have this iClone Character Creator cloth file right here. Now that method doesn't allow you to set the resolution. So if you want to set the resolution for your export, you need to go up here to export the selected object. Once you do that, you have the option to change your texture resolution to 2048 by 2048. Right, you can also save it as a project as well. If we've spent a lot of time on this, we can go to Actor Project and go to our Custom tab and save it as a project as well by just pressing the plus button and saving our project name. But what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the leather jacket example. So we need to select our cardigan, and we'll just delete it for now. And what I'm going to do is go over here to our templates one more time, into the plain base. And again, these two items I'm using only come with the essential pack, the Character Creator Essential Clothing Pack, so keep that in mind. And I'm going to use this blazer base. So I'm going to double click the blazer base right here, load that onto our character, and I'm going to activate the appearance editor. And what we're going to do now is create our own custom RGB map in Photoshop. So I'm going to go over here to Input Maps, and you can see we currently have no RGB mask. If I go into Diagnostic and enable it, you can see the entire thing is our black base fabric. So what we need to do is we need to define different areas with different colors. Now to find out what colors we need to go up to our help file right here and go to Online Manual. And in our Online Manual, we can go to About Character Cloth, Adjusting Cloth Texture, and Dividing Cloth Material Areas by RGB Mask. And down somewhere near the middle here, we have a little table here that shows the exact values that you need to input when you're using your RGB, when you're creating your RGB mask. So keep that in mind. Here's your reference right here. So let's go over back to Character Creator, and the way I can launch this UV map in Photoshop is by going over here to my Materials tab and then simply going up to the top right here and selecting Launch UV Reference Texture. And that's going to load it in Photoshop, which I already had started up here. And you can see here we have different areas which correspond to different areas on our cloth base. You can probably guess which are which. This section here is the back of our blazer. These are the pocket covers on the front, And these ones over here, these are the buttons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define each area that I want to modify with a different color. Now the way I can do that is first of all by selecting the area that I want to modify first. I want to change the top part of the back to a different color, a different material. So I can go over here and I can select my magnetic lasso tool. This is one way to do it. We'll show another way in just a sec. And then I can go ahead and click at one point and kind of just drag my mouse along the outer edge here. And again, this it's fairly accurate generally. We can, if it doesn't automatically do it, you can just simply click it. And like for example, there it might be a little bit wonky. We can just drag it along this line. And this is a tool that I've liked to use recently. And click over here, and we'll just finish. Again, we can refine this later if we find it's a little bit sketchy, a little bit rough. We can do it again, or we can add to our selection area later on. So again, just clicking and dragging. Again, I'm not clicking and dragging, I'm just dragging my mouse along the edge right here, and we'll end it off right there. Now we have this nice selection area. If I want to add to the selection area, I can just use like my lasso tool, for example. Hold the shift key and click in the area that I want to add on. Something like that'll be fine. You can also use the polygon lasso tool, which might have been a better choice. But that looks fine. It looks a little bit rough, but it'll be fine for our purposes here. And then I want to create a new layer. And in this new layer, I want to make sure my color swatch over here is pure red, because we're going to be using red first of all. So the value again, 25500, make sure it's pure red, and you can press OK. And I can select my paintbrush or fill brush or anything like that, and I can just use the right bracket key and paint in my selection area. Make sure that layer 1 is selected again. I can paint in my selection area. And then what I want to do is do the same thing for my cuffs, or not my cuffs, sorry, the pocket covers right here. So let's go to background, and we can use a quick selection tool this time. Let's go over here and choose a quick selection tool, and let's just select this area right here. That's maybe a little bit faster, so that's a faster method to do it. And the same thing, we can just go over here and paint over that right there. Oops, we need to make sure we're on the right layer rather. Go to layer 1. Make sure you paint on layer 1 and not the background layer, because we're going to make the entire background layer black later on. Now let's focus on the buttons. Now obviously the buttons, we want them to be a different color. So let's go ahead and use our quick selection tool again. And I'm going to create a new layer here. And in the new layer, I'm going to move over to my buttons here. And I'm just going to quickly select all my buttons. This might be a faster method than we had before. Oops, let's actually just press Control D here and deselect everything and go to our background layer, because we're selecting the section on the background there. That's a little bit faster. And there you go. It's a little bit messy, but you know, we can work with it. We don't want to do that. Just select it quickly. I'm going to fast forward this a little bit because it might take a little bit of time. So again, this selected area right here, all these selected items, these are our buttons on our jacket, on the arm and on the front of our jacket. So let's go ahead, again, create a new layer. And this time we can use a pure blue or a pure green, doesn't really matter. So let's go to our swatch right here, and let's choose something like let's choose the pure blue. So again, value of 00255, we can just enter it right there, 00255. So this is pure blue, and I can just use the same brush right here. Make sure I'm on that layer, like layer 3 for example, and we can just increase the size of our brush and paint over that as well. I'm going to take this layer 2 and bring that layer 2 all the way down to the bottom here, and then I'm going to just press Control D and deselect, and on layer 2 what I'm going to do is use my fill tool here. We'll just use the paint bucket tool right here. Make sure we have pure black selected, and let's just fill that in. So right now what we have is this RGB mask right now, if we just zoom out a little bit, with this section right here as the back of our blazer, and our pocket covers, and our buttons selected. Now again, we can refine these a little bit. If we go to layer 1 for example, let's pan over here slightly and just zoom in. We can use our pure red color at the very top. There we go. And just use our brush tool to kind of smooth this out a little bit. You want it to be a little bit smooth. You don't want it to be too jagged. Otherwise that may affect your seams in your jacket. So try and get it as smooth as possible. Something like that'll be fine. I think that was a little bit too. And the neck might be need a little fix in there as well. Again, this might be a little bit rough, but you know what to do if you ever come across a situation where your seams are rough. You need to just refine your RGB mask slightly, and I think that'll be fine. Now let's go ahead then and save this out. So let's go File, Save As. We can save it we'll save it to our desktop here. We'll call this Blazor RGB for lack of a better name. And instead of Photoshop, we need to select something like PNG. PNG will work fine. And we'll just save that. And we'll use the default values. That works fine. So now we have three separate values. We have our black base, we have this red section here, and we have the blue buttons that are defined. So let's go back into Character Creator then, and in our Appearance Editor, I need to go to my diagnostic. We'll disable the diagnostic mode right now, and go to our Input Maps, and just double click in the RGB mask, back to our desktop, and load in this Blazor RGB. So now you can see our pocket covers automatically turn to a certain gold color. The back of our Blazor right there turns to a nice golden color as well. We're going to change that in a moment, but you can see our buttons are also different as well. And if we close down our Input Maps, enable Diagnostic Mode, you can see now we have red, blue, and black. Now these are the, again, you can see the buttons here on the sleeve as well. These are the areas that we defined. So let's go ahead and disable Diagnostic Mode and import in our custom fabric then. So we'll go to Fabrics, Base Fabrics Black, and let's load in that quilted leather. That was in Production Resources, Texture Maps, Fabrics, and we have this quilted leather right here. So I'll load in the diffuse map. Again, we'll change this from cotton to input, and we also want to reset our diffuse HSL values here as well. We go back to normal. We can even darken that a little bit as well. There you go, some nice dark leather right there. And we'll load in the normal map and our specular map as well. And we can go ahead then and increase our normal strength if we'd like to get some more of a normal effect right there. And I think we definitely need to change our lightness and opacity here, or contrast, not opacity here. Something like that would be nice. Now we get this nice, you know, shiny leather jacket. We can decrease the density slightly as well. I think something like that would be perfect right here. All right, so we have that nice quilted leather fabric as part of the jacket there. And let's change the color of our buttons here first of all. So we'll go to our buttons. The buttons I believe were blue. Let's go to our blue section, Fabric 3. We can change this from currently just set to wool. So let's change that to metal. You can see we change them to a nice metal right here. Again, if we were picky, we could go in and set the the cross strings as well, but we're not going to worry about that for now. So we get this nice golden pocket cover. We have these nice golden buttons here along our sleeves and along the back. And again, we can modify the values here as well if we want. We need to go to our fabric red. We can change the color if we'd like. Go to hue, saturation, lightness. If we want it to be a little bit lighter, we can change it to a nice white color right there. And that changes the pockets along with the back right there. Or we could darken it a little bit as well. Do something like this. And instead of choosing the, I believe we have metal selected, we can choose leather. Which would be a little bit more accurate right there. So that's a really nice dark leather right there along the back. Very shiny, very different from the rest of the jacket. And you can see along the pockets as well. If we wanted a light colored leather, we can do that as well. We can increase lightness to a nice white leather. But I'm going to go ahead with the dark leather. I like this a little bit. And so we have this nice dark leather along the back, along the pocket covers, and we have the nice golden buttons right there. Alright, so that works for me. And if we want, we can also replace the camisole. Let's go to our essential clothing, to our shirts here, essential clothing, and let's replace it with this nice, sexy, lacy camisole. We can replace the entire material, or just replace the entire mesh, or just the material. It doesn't really matter. And then for our jeans, we can go to pants, plain or essential clothing right here, and we have these nice white skinny pants that we can use. And let's give her some classy heels on top of that as well. So we'll go to shoes, and we can just use the essential clothing, nice looking high heels, low heeled sandals right here. And there we go. We have a nice clubbing outfit, or a nice semi-formal kind of outfit right there. So that's pretty much all you need to know for customizing your own fabrics. Again, you can spend as little or as much time as you want on it. Just as long as you know how to operate the various input maps, how to create your own RGB mask, which is the most important thing, obviously, when defining different areas of your cloth base. So let's take a look at this Blazor, first of all, in 2048 mode. So we can go zoom in really closely here and take a look at the material. the way it is right now. Let's change from output size to 1024 to 2048. And you can see when we do that, we get that really nice detailed leather fabric, the quilted leather, as well as the nice buttons right there and the nice shiny leather along the back too. I'm not really a fashion designer again, but I think this looks pretty darn good. So that's about it for this tutorial, guys. Thank you for watching, and make sure you check out our forum at forum.reallusion.com if you have any more questions about using Character Creator. And we have a lot of awesome samples that our users have created, so I really encourage you to check it out there. And again, thanks for watching, and make sure you stay tuned for all our other Character Creator tutorial videos as well.